So I'm in this book, Leaders, Myth and Reality, General Stanley McChrystal, U.S. Army retired, with Jeff Eggers and Jason McGone. Basically, there's something I've experienced. I'm not going to read a bunch of these passages out. A lot of them, I'll read two of them. To expect a leader to be, 10 feet tall and be able to breathe fire and shoot lightning bolts out of his ass, I don't think that's realistic. A leader is sometimes just a nobody. A leader is somebody who has a vision of what the future holds, what's in store, where we're going. It's not necessarily somebody who has a position in society that says, oh, well, I'm the leader now. Not always. Sometimes a leader is invisible. Sometimes you have a leadership role in your own life that you don't realize. And pointing out when that happens is very important, because then you realize, yeah, you are very important in ways that you couldn't even imagine. You have an enormous impact on the world that's happening every single day that a lot of the times you don't even realize it's happening, even the little things. As simple as, like, when you come to a stop sign and you stop your car all the way instead of rolling through it. That kind of little itty-bitty thing has enormous impacts. If somebody were to see you do that, it's like, oh, well, they stopped correctly, and that's how we should drive our vehicles, so that we're responsible and we don't get anybody killed or hurt. You know what I'm saying? And that type of mentality bleeds in and impacts society a lot greater than you realize. Concerning this book, leaders aren't necessarily, exactly as we imagine them to be. And that's very important to understand. In this book, I read that Walt Disney, he has, his public persona and his private persona. And Walt Disney is remembered for saying that, yeah, Walt Disney, the public person, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, but in private, Walt Disney smokes a lot and drinks a lot. And that's very important to understand. It's the difference between character, who you really are, and your reputation for what people think you are. And sometimes the two diverge quite far from each other. I know my reputation in online communities is I'm a crank or I'm a crackpot. But people who actually listen to what I'm saying, it's like, it's kind of hard to say, well, this person's, completely crazy, because how can someone be completely crazy? I mean, I navigate life just like anybody else. I go to work 9 to 5, I go to school, and I can read and understand very advanced concepts on leadership. So how is it that I'm this just absolute crazy person? But that's the way people like to paint you when you start challenging their ideas. And that's one major part of leadership as well that I realize is that you don't necessarily need to be a person who has a high position in society to be a person who can lead, who can show people the way, who can give them a vision for the future. And that's very important to understand. I'm going to go talk about two little passages here that stuck out to me. This is on page 94 when McChrystal is talking about Coco Chanel and Walt Disney. It's at the end of 94. It's simply to say that a nice personality is not necessarily required for holding a compelling vision for the future. And when forced to choose will sometimes take a leader's vision over their style. More broadly, if a leader is giving us what we think we need, we don't always care how they get us there. And that's something that's resonated with me quite well. Sure, I'm not doing things on the line of, oh, well, I get my bachelor's degree in physics, I get my master's, I get my doctorate, I publish a few papers, and then by the time I'm fucking 3,000 years old, then everybody's gonna look at me and say, oh, well, this guy actually finally fucking knows what he's talking about. No, it doesn't work like that. The majority of the ideas that major discoveries were made, the people that made major discoveries were made when they were a lot younger. Long before they had they had worked their way up the chain of academia, the success ladder, so to speak. See, so a lot of them are about 26 years old. I can't remember which discoverers there were. I think Einstein was one of them that made up special relativity when he was 26, but had ideas on it. I was 26 when I discovered the Earth is an ancient star and that stellar evolution is planet formation. Anyways, I'm getting off track here. We don't always care about how a leader gets us there as long as their vision is on point. And that's important to understand because a vision isn't necessarily something that's attached to somebody who's been in academia for a long time, or has been in the military for a long time, or has been in politics for a long time. And I know this for a fact because I hate to mention him, but Donald Trump wasn't a politician. And that's the thing. He was never a politician. He didn't spend years and years and years in the political sphere like a lot of senators do. Yet he gave us what people wanted. He gave us that that just say whatever the fuck is on your mind mentality. That's what people wanted. He had that available, and people decided to make him the president because of that. Bar all the bullshit, bar all the media's talk about it. That's basically what he did. He gave them what they wanted. So to say, well, his style is all fucked up, of course it is. But that isn't always what we're after here. We're after the fact that he gave us a vision. And that's the fucking truth. There are a lot of people out there that didn't like how he did things. I don't like how he does things. But the thing about it is he fulfilled a need. And that sometimes is the role of a leader. We don't care what the person is like as long as they can get us there. And let's see what else. And I'm sure there are a lot of other like genuine assholes in history, okay, that just got shit done. And we let them lead us because they had the vision. Mind you, they were horrible people. Some cases they were morally apprehensible, like Hitler or Stalin, really freaking evil people. But he provided something for people. He provided a vision and everybody followed it. This isn't to say being a leader is somebody who's morally like aligned all the time. And that's the big thing about the myth and the leader and the myth and the reality of it. I like this book a lot. I'm learning a lot out of this, and I'm taking a lot of the ideas and I'm pitting them against what I've experienced. Okay, the second idea here is he also talks about Einstein, and well, of course, there's a lot of stuff on Einstein all over the place, but this thing in particular stuck out to me. Page 105. He then spends a paragraph explaining his current scientific pursuits, concluding with a summation of his philosophy of discovery. Quote, It is a glorious feeling to perceive the unity of a complex of phenomena which appears as completely separate entities to direct sensory observation. Let me repeat that again. I was messing that all up. It is a glorious feeling to perceive the unity of a complex of phenomena which appear as completely separate entities to direct sensory observation. That's exactly what happened to me when I discovered the Earth is an ancient star. To a regular astronomer, when they view the planets, when they view the exoplanets, when they view the stars, they put them into little boxes. They pigeonhole the fuck out of them. Sorry for cussing. But they pigeonhole them. They say this star is like this, and it has individual history. This star is like this planet is like this object looks like this. And they put them all in their own separate little boxes and then try to explain their entire history as completely independent entities from all the other objects that are observed in the galaxy. For me, the complex of phenomena was those objects. And they appear to be completely separate entities in our direct observation. When somebody were to take a glance at the sun without staring at it, they'd notice that, yeah, that thing is not like Earth at all. It's not like Jupiter at all. I mean, from appearances. Jupiter isn't like Earth at all. Neptune isn't like Jupiter. Earth isn't like Neptune. The moon isn't like Earth. The moon isn't like Jupiter or Saturn or Neptune or the sun. They're all different. And it was extremely, it was a glorious feeling to be, whoa, this all is the same process. We're looking at objects that are vastly different in age from each other in different stages of evolution. And that's what that basically happened. And there is a major unity there that we have been just completely screwing up. Astronomers, they've completely screwed the pooch on that. It's going to take them quite a few years to fully do, an about face and correct themselves, because, you have a lot of firmly entrenched people that hold the purse strings, so to speak, about what ideas can be accepted by the mainstream, what ideas can be published in textbooks and then repeated to college students. College students are still learning that there are two separate entities, planets and stars. They're still learning this. They're still teaching it in elementary and middle and high school. And it's like, it's totally fucking wrong. But it's, gosh, I'm probably going to be in my 60s or 70s by the time they fully realize this. But it sucks. But I know this. And that is something that I want to also share when it comes to leadership, myth, and reality. The reality, yes, it is a glorious feeling to realize complex phenomenon in a unity style fashion. What was not glorious, the reality of it, is sharing the idea with people online and being called a fucking idiot or uneducated or stupid or a crank or a crackpot or, what have you. And that part wasn't glorious. The glorious part happened for the first millisecond of a 10-year trudge, so to speak. And it just stinks because you think that the reality would be you make a major scientific discovery and people will herald you in and say, oh, but this is great, let's give this guy all these accolades, let's put him on the news, let's make sure that he understands that, we understand what he's talking about and we can move on to the next level of human understanding. It doesn't work like that. The reality is when you make a major scientific discovery, you're ridiculed for decades. Decades they ridicule you and put you down and tell you you're a fucking idiot. And that's what I'm realizing. That's the reality of being a scientific leader, is when you have a major understanding of the stars that completely replaces all the dogma, you're not going to get the time of day. You're not going to get any news media. You're not going to get any prizes. They're going to laugh you off, to talk down to you, to tell you how fucking stupid you are and how much and how crazy all your ideas are and how none of them make any sense. And they're going to gaslight the crap out of you too. They're going to try to skew your reality and like as if you're the crazy one. Yet they've been conditioned into a false worldview for 2 millennia. And it's like, it's time to wake up from it. But so the glorious feeling is one part, and Einstein was really lucky that, he got to do the special relativity thing. And, of course it took quite a few years, maybe like 10 years, even from 1915. And then after 1915, then he really got famous, into the 1920s, 1930s. So even then, an idea that was supposedly as great as special relativity takes decades to really get into the mainstream. But when you have an idea that everybody thinks is completely ridiculous, you're going to be long dead and gone before people, recognize its value. But yeah, that's the myth and the reality of making major scientific discoveries and being a leader in science. It's not what people think it is at all. Like, I've had people tell me, oh, well, if it was a major scientific discovery, why haven't you received a Nobel Prize? Why isn't that anybody's recognizing you for this? Because that's the myth. It's a myth that if you were to do something really great, people would recognize you for it. As painful it is, as painful it is to admit. I mean, even with things like, say you have a Marine that, does really great in battle and he saves a lot of lives, doesn't necessarily kill people. Even then, like, word spreads about him and his unit or her unit and how badass he was in a specific battle environment, and then he gets out of the service and then he gets a call from the president saying, oh, he's going to be awarded the Medal of Honor. So it's like, even with stuff that's like visceral in your face, it still takes a long time to recognize the value, because of how many things have to come into being, how many gears have to move in the right direction, how much stuff has to move to make things happen. And when you have a theory this big, when you're replacing all the astronomy textbooks with a brand new theory of how Earth actually formed, that's a lot of gears that have to come into spinning all together at the same time, and it takes a lot of time for that to occur, regardless of, it's a simple idea to understand. All right, guys, I think I made this video long enough, and get this book, read it, understand the difference between what a leader is and what, the mythology of it all is, because it's not exact, and they're completely different constructs. All right, later.